I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am, questioning everything about my marriage and family. I'm Janelia, 28F, and I've been married to Sebastian, 30M, for 3 years now. We have a beautiful daughter, Trisha, who just turned 1 last month. Sebastian and I met during our sophomore year of college. I was majoring in English literature, dreaming of becoming a writer, while Sebastian was studying business administration. We literally bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop. I spilled my latte all over his textbook. I was mortified, but Sebastian just laughed it off and asked me out for a replacement coffee. That was the start of our story. At the time, I was struggling with severe anxiety. It had started in high school after my parents' messy divorce, but college life had amplified it. I was barely keeping up with my classes, constantly worried about failing, and had trouble making friends. Sebastian became my rock. He was patient and understanding, always there to calm me down during panic attacks or to help me study when I felt overwhelmed. I remember one night during finals week of our junior year. I was having a particularly bad anxiety episode, convinced I was going to fail all my exams and get kicked out of college. Sebastian stayed up all night with me, quizzing me on literary theories and making sure I ate and drank water. When I finally fell asleep at dawn, he tucked me in and went to his own exam without having slept at all. That's when I knew he was the one. After graduation, Sebastian got a job at a local marketing firm while I started working at a small publishing house. We got married a year later in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Sebastian's mother, Clara, 55F, seemed a bit cold at the wedding, but I chalked it up to nerves. If only I had known then what I know now. When I found out I was pregnant with Trisha, we were both thrilled. It wasn't planned, but we had always talked about having kids, so it felt like the right time. The pregnancy was tough, my morning sickness lasted well into the second trimester, and my anxiety flared up again. I was terrified of something going wrong with the baby. Sebastian was supportive at first, coming to every doctor's appointment and helping me research everything about pregnancy and childbirth. However, as my due date approached, Sebastian's behavior started to change. He became distant and would often spend hours on the phone with Clara. I didn't think much of it at first, assuming he was just nervous about becoming a father. I tried to talk to him about it, but he would brush off my concerns, saying everything was fine. After Trisha was born, things took a turn for the worse. Clara started visiting us almost every day, criticizing my parenting skills and suggesting that I wasn't fit to be a mother. She would make comments about how I held Trisha, how I fed her, even how I dressed her. "Oh, you're not supporting her head properly," she'd say, "or are you sure you're producing enough milk? She looks a bit thin to me." Sebastian never stood up for me, always siding with his mother. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that Clara was just overly concerned and that it would get better with time. But it didn't. Instead, it got worse. Clara started suggesting that maybe I should go back to work and let her take care of Trisha during the day. When I said I wanted to stay home with Trisha for at least the first year, Clara implied that I was being selfish and denying Sebastian the chance to advance in his career. One day, when Trisha was about 3 months old, I overheard a conversation between Sebastian and Clara. I had just put Trisha down for a nap and was heading to the kitchen when I heard them talking in hushed tones in the living room. They were discussing how I wasn't capable of raising Trisha properly due to my history with anxiety. Clara suggested that they should consider having Sebastian's sister, Megan, 32F, adopt Trisha. To my shock and horror, Sebastian agreed that it might be for the best. I stood there, frozen, unable to believe what I was hearing. My own husband, the man who had supported me through my darkest times, was considering giving away our daughter. I must have made a noise because they suddenly stopped talking. I rushed back upstairs before they could see me, my mind reeling. I confronted Sebastian that evening after Clara left. He tried to downplay the conversation, saying they were just discussing hypothetical scenarios, and that he would never actually consider giving up our daughter. But I could see the guilt in his eyes. He knew he had been caught. Over the next few months, the pressure from Sebastian and Clara intensified. They would constantly bring up scenarios where I might struggle as a mother, always circling back to how Megan would be a more stable parent. Megan herself started visiting more often, always offering to take care of Trisha and making comments about how she wished she had a baby of her own. I felt like I was going crazy. Every time I expressed my concerns to Sebastian, he would dismiss them, saying I was being paranoid. But I couldn't shake the feeling that they were all working together to push me out of my daughter's life. I started having nightmares about coming home to find Trisha gone, taken away by Sebastian and his family. My anxiety, which had been under control for years, started to resurface. I found myself constantly on edge, afraid to leave Trisha alone with Sebastian or his family. I started seeing a therapist again, trying to work through my fears and doubts. But every time I started to feel better, something would happen to bring all the anxiety rushing back. I remember one particularly bad day when Trisha was about 8 months old. I had a migraine and asked Sebastian to watch Trisha while I lay down for a bit. When I woke up a couple of hours later, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I rushed downstairs in a panic, only to find Sebastian and Megan playing with Trisha in the backyard. They looked so natural together, like a perfect little family. When Sebastian saw me, he had the grace to look guilty, but Megan just smiled and said, "Oh, we didn't want to wake you. You looked so peaceful." Things came to a head last week when I came home early from work and found Sebastian, Clara, and Megan in our living room with a man I didn't recognize. They quickly ended their conversation when they saw me, but I managed to catch a glimpse of some papers on the coffee table that looked suspiciously like adoption forms. The stranger hurriedly gathered the papers and left, while Sebastian tried to distract me with questions about my day. I confronted Sebastian later that night, and he finally admitted that they had been seriously considering having Megan adopt Trisha. He tried to justify it by saying it was all for Trisha's benefit, that Megan could provide a more stable home environment. He even had the audacity to suggest that I could still be part of Trisha's life as her aunt. I was devastated. The man I thought I knew, the man who had supported me through my darkest times, was now trying to take away the most precious thing in my life. I packed a bag for myself and Trisha and left to stay with my parents. Now, I'm torn. Part of me wants to fight for my daughter with everything I have. I look at Trisha, with her curly brown hair and big green eyes, so much like mine, and I can't imagine not being her mother. I think about all the milestones I'd miss, all the moments I'd never get to share with her. The thought of it makes my heart ache. But another part of me is scared that maybe they're right, that maybe I'm not fit to be a mother. What if my anxiety does come back full force? What if I can't handle the stress of raising a child? What if Trisha would be better off with Megan? I don't know what to do next. Should I file for divorce? Should I seek full custody? Am I overreacting? I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down, and I don't know who to trust anymore. The only thing I'm sure of is that I love Trisha more than anything in this world, and I want what's best for her. But what if what's best for her isn't me? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I left Sebastian and moved in with my parents. These have been some of the most challenging days of my life, but also some of the most enlightening. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your support and advice gave me the strength to take action. As many of you suggested, I contacted a lawyer specializing in family law. Her name is Rachel, and she was recommended by a friend from college who went through a messy divorce last year. When I met with Rachel and told her my story, she was shocked. She said she'd seen a lot of custody battles in her career, but nothing quite like this. Rachel immediately started working on my case. She advised me to gather as much evidence as possible, texts, emails, anything that showed Sebastian and his family's intent to adopt out Trisha without my consent. She also suggested I keep a detailed journal of all interactions with Sebastian and his family. The day after I left, Sebastian started bombarding me with calls and messages. At first, he was apologetic, claiming he had made a huge mistake and begging me to come home. He said he loved me and Trisha, and that he had just been confused and overwhelmed by the pressure from his mother. Part of me wanted to believe him, to go back to the life we had before all this started. But then I remembered the look on his face when I confronted him about the adoption papers, and I knew I couldn't trust him. When I didn't respond to his pleas, Sebastian's tone changed. He started threatening to fight for full custody, saying that with my history of anxiety, no judge would ever side with me. He said his family had connections in the legal system, which I later found out was a bluff, and that I would never see Trisha again if I didn't come back. His threats only strengthened my resolve. Rachel advised me to document everything, every call, every text, every interaction. She also suggested I get statements from my doctor and my former therapist about my mental health history and my current state. My therapist, Dr. Anderson, was particularly helpful. She wrote a detailed letter explaining how I had successfully managed my anxiety for years and how, in her professional opinion, it did not impact my ability to be a good mother. A week ago, we had our first mediation session. Sebastian showed up with Clara and their lawyer, a stern-looking man named Mr. Thompson. The session was tense, to say the least. Mr. Thompson tried to paint me as an unstable mother, using my past struggles with anxiety against me. He brought up incidents from years ago, panic attacks I'd had in college, the time I had to take a semester off due to depression, twisting them to make it seem like I was constantly on the verge of a breakdown. But Rachel was prepared. She presented the statements from Dr. Anderson and my general physician, both confirming that I've been stable for years and am fully capable of caring for Trisha. She also had testimonies from friends and coworkers, all attesting to my capabilities as a mother. What really turned the tide, however, was when Rachel presented evidence of Sebastian and Clara's manipulation. Remember those adoption papers I mentioned? It turns out they were real, and Sebastian had already signed them. Rachel had managed to obtain a copy from the adoption agency. Apparently, the stranger I saw that day was a representative from the agency. The papers clearly showed that Sebastian was willing to give up his parental rights to Megan without my knowledge or consent. The mediator, a kind-faced woman named Mrs. Patel, was appalled. She said that in her 20 years of practice, she'd never seen such a blatant attempt to circumvent a mother's rights. Sebastian's face turned white when he realized his plan had been exposed. Clara started yelling about how they were just trying to do what was best for Trisha, but Mrs. Patel quickly shut her down. By the end of the session, it was clear that Sebastian's case was crumbling. Mrs. Patel strongly advised him to reconsider his position, warning that if this went to court, he could lose all rights to Trisha. She even suggested that his actions could be seen as a form of emotional abuse, which could severely impact any custody agreement. Since then, Sebastian has been quieter. He's requested another mediation session, this time without Clara present. It's scheduled for next week, and I'm nervous but hopeful. Rachel thinks Sebastian might be ready to negotiate a more reasonable custody arrangement. In the meantime, I've been focusing on Trisha and myself. My parents have been incredibly supportive. Mom has been helping with childcare so I can continue working, and Dad has been giving me pep talks every morning, reminding me of how strong I am. Trisha seems to be adjusting well to our new living situation, which is a huge relief. She's started saying new words every day, and her latest favorite thing is to help Grandma in the garden, which mostly involves digging holes and getting very muddy. I've also reconnected with some old friends who've been a great support system. One of them, Lena, 29F, is a single mom, and she's been an invaluable resource, offering advice and just being there to listen when I need to vent. We've started having weekly playdates with our kids, which has been great for both Trisha and me. As for my relationship with Sebastian, I don't see how we can ever go back to what we were. The trust is completely shattered. Every time I think about how close I came to losing Trisha, I feel a mix of anger and fear that I've never experienced before. Right now, my priority is ensuring Trisha's safety and well-being, and fighting for my rights as her mother. I've started seeing a new therapist, Dr. Lena, who specializes in postpartum anxiety and family trauma. She's been helping me work through my feelings about Sebastian's betrayal and my fears about being a single mother. It's hard work, but I already feel stronger and more confident in my abilities as a mother. I'll update again after the next mediation session. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. The second mediation session with Sebastian was unexpected, to say the least. Sebastian showed up alone this time, without Clara or his lawyer. He looked tired and defeated, with dark circles under his eyes and his usually neat hair a mess. As soon as we sat down, he broke down and confessed everything. He admitted that Clara had been manipulating him for years, playing on his insecurities and fears. He said she had convinced him that I wasn't fit to be a mother and that giving Trisha to Megan was the only way to ensure she had a normal life. He also revealed something I hadn't known: Clara had done something similar to Sebastian's father years ago. Apparently, when Sebastian was just a child, Clara had manipulated the situation to gain full custody, effectively cutting his father out of his life. She had told Sebastian that his father had abandoned them, but Sebastian said he recently found out the truth when he reconnected with his father. I was shocked. Part of me felt sympathy for Sebastian, realizing he had been a victim of Clara's manipulation too. I remembered how close he and Clara had always been, how he would always seek her approval. It made a twisted kind of sense that she had been able to manipulate him like this. But another part of me was angry that he had been weak enough to let his mother come between us and our daughter. Sebastian begged for forgiveness and said he wanted to make things right. He offered to go to family therapy, to cut off all contact with Clara, and to do whatever it takes to rebuild our family. He even suggested we move to a different city to get a fresh start, away from Clara's influence. I was torn. On one hand, I still love Sebastian. We've been through so much together, and the idea of giving Trisha a chance to grow up with both her parents is appealing. I thought about all the good times we'd had, our college days, our wedding, the day Trisha was born. Sebastian had been my support system for so long, and part of me wanted to believe we could get back to that. On the other hand, the trust between us has been severely damaged, and I'm not sure if it can ever be fully repaired. Every time I look at him, I remember how close I came to losing Trisha. I think about all the times he sided with Clara over me, all the times he dismissed my concerns. Can I ever trust him to put our family first? After the mediation session, I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. I talked it over with my parents, with Lena, and with Dr. Lena. I even reached out to Sebastian's father, wanting to hear his side of the story. He confirmed everything Sebastian had said about Clara's manipulation and expressed regret for not fighting harder to stay in Sebastian's life. After much deliberation, I've decided to proceed cautiously. We've agreed to a trial separation period of 6 months. During this time, Sebastian will move out of our house, which is currently empty, and find his own place. We'll have shared custody of Trisha, with me having primary custody and Sebastian having visitation rights. Sebastian will attend individual therapy to work on his issues with his mother and his own insecurities. We'll attend co-parenting counseling together to learn how to effectively parent Trisha as separated parents. Sebastian will have no contact with Clara unless it's approved by both of us and our counselor. At the end of 6 months, we'll reassess the situation and decide whether to proceed with divorce or attempt reconciliation. It's not an ideal situation, but I believe it's the best compromise for now. It gives Sebastian a chance to prove he's serious about changing, while also protecting Trisha and me. I'm still wary, but I want to give Sebastian the opportunity to be the father and partner I thought he was. As for Clara and Megan, they're out of the picture for now. My lawyer sent them a cease and desist letter, warning them that any attempts to interfere with our custody arrangement would result in legal action. Megan sent me a long email apologizing for her role in everything, saying she had no idea how far Clara was willing to go. I'm not sure I believe her, but I appreciated the gesture. I'm still living with my parents, but I'm starting to look for my own place. I want to establish a stable home for Trisha, whether Sebastian is part of it or not. My parents have been amazing through all of this, but I know I need to stand on my own 2 feet. This whole experience has been a roller coaster, but I'm trying to stay positive. Trisha is happy and healthy, and that's what matters most. She's starting to walk now, tottering around the house and getting into everything. Watching her grow and learn new things every day reminds me why all of this is worth it. I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on being the best mother I can be. I've started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. It's mostly just journaling for now, but it feels good to put my thoughts on paper. Maybe someday I'll write that novel I always dreamed about. I'll update again in a few months when we reach the end of our trial separation. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a source of strength during this difficult time. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and today marks the end of our trial separation period. These past months have been a journey of self-discovery, healing, and difficult decisions. First, the good news: Trisha is thriving. She's now almost 2 years old, walking, talking, and bringing joy to everyone around her. She's adjusted well to the custody arrangement and seems happy spending time with both Sebastian and me. Her vocabulary is expanding rapidly, and she's starting to form simple sentences. Just yesterday, she pointed at a picture of us and said, "Mommy, Daddy, Trisha family." It melted my heart and broke it a little at the same time. As for Sebastian, he's made significant progress. He's been consistent with his therapy sessions and our co-parenting counseling. He's maintained the no-contact rule with Clara and has been working hard to rebuild his relationship with his father. I've seen real changes in him. He's more confident, more assertive, and seems to have a clearer sense of who he is outside of his mother's influence. Our co-parenting relationship has improved dramatically. We've learned to communicate effectively about Trisha's needs and to present a united front even when we disagree. It hasn't been easy, but we've managed to put Trisha's well-being first. We've even started having family dinners once a week, which Trisha absolutely loves. Now, for the difficult part. After much soul-searching and countless discussions with our counselor, we've decided to proceed with the divorce. Despite Sebastian's progress and our improved co-parenting relationship, I realized that I couldn't fully trust him as a partner again. The betrayal ran too deep, and I found myself constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every time Sebastian made a decision without consulting me, even something as simple as changing Trisha's nap schedule, I would feel a surge of panic. Was this the start of him trying to take control again? Was Clara somehow influencing him behind the scenes? I realized that living with this constant suspicion and fear wasn't healthy for me or for Trisha. It wasn't an easy decision, but I believe it's the right one for all of us. Sebastian was understandably upset but said he respected my decision. We've agreed to continue our current custody arrangement and to always prioritize Trisha's needs. We're committed to making our co-parenting relationship work, even if our romantic relationship couldn't be salvaged. As for me, I've grown so much over these past months. I've rediscovered my strength and resilience. I've learned to trust my instincts as a mother and to stand up for myself and my daughter. I've also started dating again, casually for now, but it feels good to know that there's life after this difficult chapter. I've moved into my own apartment, a cozy 2-bedroom place with a small backyard where Trisha can play. It's been challenging at times, balancing single motherhood with work and my own needs, but it's also been incredibly rewarding. I feel like I'm finally in control of my own life. Clara made one last attempt to insert herself into our lives about a month ago. She showed up unannounced at my new apartment, demanding to see Trisha. I stood my ground and refused, reminding her of the cease and desist order. She left in a huff, but not before threatening to take us to court for grandparents' rights. My lawyer assures me she doesn't have a case, but we're prepared if she tries anything. Looking back on this whole ordeal, I can hardly believe how much has changed in just over a year. While it's not the happy ending I once imagined, I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm excited for this new chapter in my life, focusing on raising Trisha, advancing in my career, and rediscovering who I am as an individual. I've started writing more seriously, working on a children's book inspired by my experiences with Trisha. It's been therapeutic and exciting, a way to channel all the emotions of the past year into something positive. To anyone going through a similar situation, remember, trust your instincts, don't be afraid to ask for help, and always put your child's well-being first. It won't be easy, but you're stronger than you know.